Here's something which caught our eye. The villagers of Ash, near to Sandwich, are hoping to exchange contracts on their village pub at the end of this month and reopen it as a community venture by the autumn of this year. The Chequer Inn served its last pint a couple of years ago now, but with the backing of grants and the frantic sale of shares to local people around the village and beyond, it now looks set to be saved as a big asset, even though it's not the only pub in the village. BBC Radio Kent's Joe Byrne has been along to talk to some of the people who are back in the venture to ask them why they think it's got a future.
My name is Ken Manxelow. I moved down here in November last year. And what I was looking for was what everyone's looking for in a nice village location, which is the sense of community. And Ash has that in buckets.
Ken is now a shareholder of the Chequer Inn, a 15th century pub right here in the heart of the village of Ash. How important was it to have a community pub, somewhere where you could go and start engaging with community?
Oh, very important. It's one of the things you look for, I think, in getting to know people and having somewhere nice to convene with people who are basically just like you. And so when I saw the Chequer, I was rather encouraged until I found out it had closed.
In its final throes, it became known as the pub with no beer locally, and it was soon found languishing on a house-buying website where it was snapped up by a developer. A planning officer backed the change of use, and with the volunteer pub up the street already well supported, it seemed time had finally been called. But the community has put its money on the bar, and now Jane Greaves from Save the Chequer Inn says they've agreed a purchase price.
We have had to increase our offer. It is more than we wanted to pay. Do we want to proceed? It's now 2 years that we've been at this. Or, do we say game over? And they voted overwhelmingly to proceed.
My name's Tony Jones. I've lived in Ash now for almost 28 years. Next month I invested in this pub because a lot of people are doing a lot of work.
But with hundreds of shareholders having their own vision too, this pub will have to be careful that it doesn't try to be everything to everyone.
Obviously people like to go out to eat in a pub. I go out to drink in a pub, and if the beer's no good, I don't go to the pub. As simple as that.
Everybody has their idea of their favourite little country pub. We need to make sure, it may not be all things to all people immediately, but we would hope that it attracts a range of people, and it's, when we find our right tenant, that he's not overwhelmed with shareholders going in and telling him, actually, if you did this and if you did the other, then this would be much nicer. And we have got systems in place with the committee as to how we are going to organise that and manage that.
Because although it's a community project, it's still got to be a viable business.
It's got to be a viable business. The tenant has to be enabled to make a living, and that's really important because it has to be a successful pub because we have loans to repay. So yes, that's really important.
But there is already a thriving pub in the village, and Tony is a regular there too.
I use the volley, but it's a man's pub, no doubt about it. Women hate it, but you go in there, it's not cliquey or anything like that. You go in there and you have a drink and you have a chat and everybody, and the same with the Chequers. It will be that way, and people will be able to go out for a meal. Let's just go out for a meal and have a drink.
This one, I think, has the makings of being a lovely, typical English village country pub.
And what does a pub like that bring to a village like this?
A focal point. The villages tend to have lots of focal points. The local school, the church, and the pub. It's a cliche, but it's true.
It has got a future. It's got a very exciting future, and people are really talking about it now as being an exciting way forward. Something perhaps seemed unlikely to happen, and now, of course,
it's not if, it's when.
It's happening.
The villagers of Ash near Sandwich speaking with BBC Radio Kent's Joe Byrne.